What if the reason you can't focus isn't because you're lazy, distracted, or lacking discipline? What if your brain is actually responding exactly the way it was designed to respond? Think about it. How many times have you sat down with the intention of getting something done, only to find yourself checking your phone, staring into space, opening another browser tab, or suddenly remembering 10 completely unrelated things you should be doing instead? You tell yourself you'll focus for just 20 minutes. Then somehow an hour disappears. And the frustrating part is that you know what needs to be done. You want to do it. Yet your attention seems to have a mind of its own. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. In fact, one of the most common complaints people have today is that they simply can't concentrate like they used to. But here's something interesting. The problem may not be that your attention span is broken. The problem may be that your brain is overwhelmed by forces you rarely notice. Your brain evolved in a world very different from the one you live in today. For most of human history, attention was a survival tool. Your ancestors needed to constantly scan their environment for opportunities and threats. A strange sound in the bushes, a change in the weather, movement in the distance, missing important information could have serious consequences. In other words, the human brain was built to notice interruptions. Now fast forward to modern life. Every day your attention is pulled by notifications, messages, emails, videos, headlines, advertisements, social media feeds, and endless streams of information competing for space inside your mind. Your brain still treats novelty as important. So when a notification appears, even if it's completely irrelevant, a small part of your brain reacts as if something significant has happened. This creates a constant cycle of interruption. And over time, your brain begins to adapt. The more often you switch between tasks, the more natural task switching becomes. The more often you consume short bursts of information, the harder it becomes to stay engaged with anything that requires sustained focus. It's not that you've lost the ability to concentrate. You've trained your brain to expect constant stimulation. Imagine someone who eats dessert every hour. Eventually, a simple piece of fruit may seem boring. Something similar can happen with attention. When your brain becomes accustomed to rapid rewards, slower activities begin to feel uncomfortable. Reading a book. Working on a long project. Learning a new skill. Having a deep conversation. These activities often require patience before they become rewarding. And patience is becoming increasingly rare. Here's another surprising reason concentration feels so difficult. Many people aren't struggling with a lack of focus. They're struggling with mental clutter. Think about how many unfinished thoughts you're carrying right now. Bills to pay. Messages to answer. Work deadlines. Family responsibilities. Health concerns. Future plans. Regrets from the past. Worries about tomorrow. Your conscious mind can only hold a limited amount of information at once. But beneath the surface, your brain is constantly processing much more. It's like trying to listen to a single conversation in a crowded room. The conversation is still there. But so is all the background noise. And sometimes what feels like poor concentration is actually cognitive overload. Your brain isn't weak. It's busy. This explains why concentration often becomes harder during stressful periods of life. Stress doesn't just affect your emotions. It affects your attention. When your brain senses uncertainty or danger, it naturally shifts resources toward survival. That's useful if you're escaping a threat. It's less useful when you're trying to finish a report, study for an exam, or focus on an important task. The brain prioritizes what it believes matters most. And under stress, it often decides that worrying is more important than concentrating. Another hidden factor is fatigue. Not just physical fatigue. Mental fatigue. Many people wake up tired, spend the day making hundreds of decisions, consuming endless information, and solving constant problems. By the time they finally sit down to focus on something meaningful, their mental energy is already depleted. Imagine trying to run a marathon after spending the entire day climbing hills. Concentration requires energy. And energy is not unlimited. This is why some people notice they focus best during certain hours of the day. Their brain simply has more resources available. But perhaps one of the most powerful reasons concentration disappears is emotional resistance. This is something many people never realize. Sometimes you don't avoid a task because it's difficult. You avoid it because of how it makes you feel. Maybe it reminds you of possible failure. Maybe you're afraid your work won't be good enough. Maybe you're worried about being judged. Maybe the task feels overwhelming. In those moments, distraction becomes a form of emotional escape. You tell yourself you're taking a short break. But what you're really doing is avoiding discomfort. And because that avoidance provides temporary relief, your brain learns to repeat it. The cycle continues. You avoid. You feel better briefly. You return later. The task feels even bigger. You avoid again. Over time, concentration starts to feel impossible. But often the real challenge isn't attention. It's emotion. This leads to an important realization. Focus is not just a cognitive skill. It's also an emotional skill. The ability to stay present often requires the willingness to tolerate temporary discomfort. To sit with uncertainty. To continue even when something feels challenging. To resist the urge to seek immediate relief. And that's not always easy. Here's something else worth considering. Many people believe highly focused individuals never get distracted. That's not true. Everyone gets distracted. The difference is what happens next. When most people lose focus, they unconsciously follow the distraction wherever it leads. One thought becomes another. One notification becomes 20 minutes. One video becomes an hour. Highly focused people get distracted too. They simply return more quickly. Again and again. Without turning every interruption into a major detour. That's an important distinction. Focus isn't the absence of distraction. It's the ability to come back. And every time you bring your attention back to what matters, you're strengthening that ability. Think of attention like a muscle. Not because that's scientifically perfect, but because the comparison is useful. A muscle grows through repeated effort. Attention works in a similar way. Every time you resist an unnecessary distraction. Every time you stay with a task a little longer. Every time you redirect your mind after it wanders. You're training your brain. Slowly. Gradually. Often invisibly. Most people quit too soon because they expect immediate results. But meaningful changes in attention usually happen the same way physical fitness improves. One repetition at a time. One day at a time. One choice at a time. The good news is that your ability to focus is not fixed. It isn't something you're born with or without. Your brain remains adaptable throughout your life. The habits you build shape how your attention functions. The environment you create influences your ability to concentrate. The way you respond to distractions matters. And perhaps most importantly, understanding what's happening inside your mind changes everything. Because once you realize that your concentration struggles aren't necessarily signs of laziness or failure, you stop fighting yourself. You become curious instead. You start asking better questions. Am I tired? Am I stressed? Am I overwhelmed? Am I avoiding something emotionally uncomfortable? Am I constantly feeding my brain stimulation it no longer knows how to live without? Those questions often reveal more than criticism ever could. The next time you find yourself unable to focus, pause for a moment. Don't immediately assume something is wrong with you. Look deeper. Your wandering attention may be trying to tell you something. Your stress. Your habits. Your emotions. Your environment. Your mental load. All of these leave fingerprints on your ability to concentrate. And sometimes the path back to focus begins not with forcing your brain to work harder, but with understanding why it's struggling in the first place. Because the moment you understand what's pulling your attention away, you regain the power to guide it back. And that may be one of the most important skills you can develop in a world designed to constantly steal your focus. If this helped you understand your mind better, subscribe for more videos like this.